All right, thank you so much for standing by for everyone online and of course everyone here. We thought we would, in the middle of our conference, have a panel discussion inviting all four of our guest speakers onto the stage to discuss a lot of different things that we are all thinking. And I just want to say before we get into it that tomorrow we're going to be having a hackathon here at 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. Things that are said on this stage, it could be the case that everyone here is in agreement, but for tomorrow, and part of this is really to open up the discussion. So if we openly invite people to come, especially tomorrow morning, because that's when, for example, if you are someone who adheres to the International Phonetic Alphabet, the IPA, and you use that when you teach, or anything that is basically in a disagreement, or that you want to enter the we really openly invite you to bring in your points and to be a part of the discussion, because ultimately we're all here to move the industry forward in the best way we can, and that's why we're all here. So for the panel of the four members, you may already know many of them, but of course we have Anesh Daya, who is our experiential learning entrepreneur from Toronto. And next door we have Judy Thompson, who is our content queen, as we said, followed by James Rice, who is our EdTech pioneer, and finally we have Elizabeth Verway, who is a small business guru and mentor. Okay, so we'd like to open up the discussion. The first question is going to have an input into what our first topic or question could be. Okay, all right.
The questions everybody asks you.
So here's a question that we had. How do you introduce pronunciation into ESL classes? Most of us avoid it.
Oh, that would be me. Yeah. Well, the context for teaching pronunciation is that nobody's ever taught it to the students before. So we teach the alphabet and spelling and grammar and punctuation, which are all reading and writing skills, and they expect to be able to speak from that, which never happens. And because of crippled old tools like IPA, I can't tell you how many teachers avoid teaching pronunciation at all. So if they're advanced students, their mistakes, I hate that word, are fossilized, their issues, and if they're beginners, IPA is too advanced, too complex to use. So when you teach speaking separately as speaking, as it is, completely different from writing, everyone starts at the beginning. So there are no beginners. The difference in the program between a beginner and an advanced student is the speed at which they go through the program. So you address it with, what makes it great is you use the first three tools that they learn. So it uses the alphabet, ABC is the first thing they learn, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and colors. Those three things, the things they learn the very first week of school are all the tools that they need to introduce a simple system for pronunciation. Did that answer the question? Or did I go on a tangent?
No, that was perfectly on point. Does anyone else want to add anything? You can grab the microphone.
I mean, pronunciation is really critical for ESL learners. And as teachers, I would suggest you start with doing scenes from a film. So you take a short scene from a movie, and you can do it as a solo, or you can do it as a couple, perhaps, like When Harry Met Sally. I'm dating myself, but it's a great one. And Jack Black from School of Rock, he has a great speech. And you work on the pronunciation. You videotape it, you record it, you put it onto something. It can be a digital device, or it can be just a voice memo, or whatever device you want to use. And you go through that pronunciation with them. Gives them that sense of realness. And you can use it as part of your lesson if you're teaching a certain theme or activity, or it can take up the whole lesson. So I love using drama and real life drama for movies right into your class. And I love singing too, so singing is always fun. Love to have a song, and work through that pronunciation as well. And even if you take parts of a song, so depending on how long your semester is, if it's a week, if it's a month, You could take parts of a song, lines of a song. I've broken down a song with different students, so you have, because it's embarrassing to sing by yourself. Actually, I use it as a punishment. If they don't speak English in my class, they sing a song. And so we work through the entire song for the week or the 2 weeks that I have them in that semester, and really, it's a fun way to introduce pronunciation to them as well.
I think just to add to the song point, actually, current student here, that was part of her goal. She wanted to learn "This Is Me" from the hit
I danced that.
musical The Greatest Showman, and that was part of her homework actually last month. She learned two lines from the song every day.
Every day.
And I did this with my previous ESL school. I had each student just take one line. Just remember that one line, and I pieced it together in an audio file, and it's on YouTube right now. It's hilarious.
Rap song.
And rap, yeah.
Yeah, do a rap song.
We use the Titanic song, and every group uses the "My Heart Will Go On and On"
Yeah, sure.
because they already know it.
Yeah, everybody knows.
Right, so you decode that for them, and then they sing it at the top of their voice, and it's quite beautiful.
The challenge would be a rap song. That's where you're really.
Next level.
And I've actually got students in my pronunciation class to actually write a rap song. Okay, and around the sounds that we're studying. And then, you can make a video as well. So there's a few videos out there, rap videos as well of them singing, which is really fun. Yeah.
So with James having the mic, there was a question that some people ask you, or that you would like to bring forward, which is, why do some people fail and some people succeed in ESL?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Why do some people fail and why do some people succeed? And I often tell the teachers it's on the teacher to somehow connect with the student. And I failed as a teacher, some students, and some students have been very, very successful as well. And when I reflect on why they failed, it's because I never found the receptor, that point that connects us. And when you have a bigger class of 15, 20, 25 students, it's hard to find each person's receptor and what connects you to that person. And some is very easy. You automatically connect with them and you can help them. But if you cannot find that receptor, it's a struggle for the teacher. And you've got to kind of dig your way in to find out what makes that student tick and how can you.
Sure, you're gonna love my program.
Okay.
Because it's how to find that point.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
And
the
then work
challenge.
from there.
Yeah.
So it's not filling them with every little piece of knowledge you've acquired or believe about English. It's about finding the piece that they need and delivering that. And then, bam, it's a moment, and the light goes on in their face, and it never goes away. They're lit up. So that's what I go for. And it's, yeah.
It's interesting. Let me just go on.
It's interesting because also, when I first started teaching in Japan, many years ago, when I had hair, I had a lot of hair, like more than Anesh. And when I started teaching, they were so scientific in Japan. So they would actually break down each teacher and how good we were at connecting with different types of students. And they came up to me, the manager in the sales department came up to me and said, "James, you are very good with young boys."
Oh, that doesn't translate well.
That doesn't translate well, so I was very strong with young boys, and it's always remembered. I've never forgot that line. So I don't know why, but I teach men better than women, and certain women I do well with, and certain men I do well with, and certain age groups I do well with. And it's funny where you kind of recognize your talent as connecting with those people just naturally. And so that's something that I've always remembered too.
All right, I do have a question actually that will involve Elizabeth, I think. So maybe I can say, what has been, or what could you say, a comment, you deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, is there any themes that you found with things that they tend to struggle with? And then after that, with the three up here, the other speakers all have their own businesses, so they can talk about their own struggles, I thought, as well.
Wow, okay. Yeah, there's so much I want to say. I'm trying to organize up my brain. I think, it comes down to awareness of your own working style. Some people who are technical thinkers will forget that in order to move, like in a car, you can sit stable in a car and turn the steering wheel and you're not going anywhere, right? If you're just mulling things over and thinking what direction you should go. If you put your foot on the gas and put it into drive first and then put it gas, then you've got some movement going, then you can steer, then you can get direction. So I say to people who are overthinking, we're just going to get started, okay? We're going to do a few things that are going to get you started, and then we're going to find direction. And you may take a little, the lighthouse route. I was born in Nova Scotia, and the lighthouse route hugs the shore, and it's a little curvy, but it's a nice journey, right? Nice view. So you may not take the highway, you may take the lighthouse route, but you get there. And if you don't start, then you can't start, right? So that's about it.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. And for me, it was starting, and I've started a few different businesses. It's kind of following trends that are out there. And I'll talk a little bit about it in my presentation, but I can speak to one right now. One is the podcasting trend, and you can listen to the James Rice Show on Apple Podcasting or Stitcher app, commercial. And you can, I've been following podcasting for several years, and I was fascinated by it, but it wasn't really, it was kind of a niche thing. And I would say over the last last year, maybe 16 months, podcasting has really started to explode, and everybody's got a podcast now. And so I felt that was a trend where maybe I started a little bit too late. I should have started maybe a year earlier, but it's a trend that's on the upswing. And I'll talk about that a bit more in my presentation, some trends in education technology that I see for the future, and where you can start thinking about now, and even researching and looking, putting, where is this going to be in 10 years, and should I invest my time in training and certification and maybe going back to school to learn it or not? Is that something where I need to look at? So I'll talk about that as well.
I'm going to talk about Edupreneurs as students. So we're suddenly the learners, and we're learning it by doing, and having a conference, we learned it by doing it. So it wasn't out, and students, I think, something that really holds them back is they really want to be perfect. And maybe if they're not perfect, they're going to make a fool of themselves, or it's going to be a disaster. But, so it's don't be afraid to fail. In fact, get all excited about it, because it means you're doing something, it means you're moving forward. It isn't pretty, it's a messy, messy thing. And you have your strengths, and you have your weaknesses, and you've got to address your weaknesses, as ugly and unfun as that is. But it's a ride. It's a great ride. But no, it's not about being perfect. Nothing's perfect. Some of it's just awful. But just embrace those fails, because they're taking you somewhere. Just like a student preaching to their choir.
Yeah.
I hate going last because everyone said exactly what I wanted to say. And I've already kind of just talked about a lot of the struggles that I've gone through as an entrepreneur. That windy road, the lighthouse road, has been exactly my path, right? There's no direct A to B. It's just, we'll get there, Elizabeth. Just hold on. It's a long, windy road, but it's
just keep taking another step.
Step by step, as long as you're still moving forward. I'm still here 9 years
Some of
later.
those steps were backwards.
Yeah.
Some of them were sideways.
Sure. No.
But you stay in action, I think.
I think
And forgive yourself. Just get over it. Let it go.
letting go of that ego too. It's, but going onto the technology point, we've always stayed true to the core of our program. We've incorporated technology as a tool, as a supplement, so students can use, like Quizlet to listen. I used to record personalized MP3 files, upload those to Dropbox, and or whatever it is. I used to type out daily notes on like a Word document. I just do it in GDocs. And you have a Google Classroom. Okay, but we're still using it as a tool to supplement the core value of our program. I think that's some people, podcast, I'm going to start an English program, I'm just all do English on podcasting, but do you know how to do this? Is that your niche? Is that your strength? Last month we had students on a podcast, thanks to James Rice. We hosted a show with students, and it was a great experience. They're never going to walk, they had the podcast for life now, thanks to you. put myself on the spot with Luke.
Japanese number?
Yeah. There you go.
Maybe I could ask, in light of some of the challenges with the ESL industry from your perspective, what do you think future ESL business models will look like, or could look like?
I think James is going to get into that next. So
Talk a lot about that, yeah.
sit tight, everyone. James is going to be talking about that shortly. I think nothing beats real life, face-to-face interactions. Experiencing that failure right in front of someone, but you could have a taste of that with virtual reality, and you get on those goggles and you can meet, suddenly the world is open to you. You could have your virtual reality language coach. So I think there's apps already out there, and James is going to touch a little bit about that, so I won't talk too much about it.
I think the whole industry is shifting from teaching to coaching. So if you think of a football coach, he doesn't tell the same story to the running back as he does to the quarterback, as he does to a defensive player. And the coach knows everything about the sport, but he's really, really selective about what he gives to each player. And that's the difference between coaching and teaching. And I think the industry is really going that way.
Well, I would like to see the industry move to implementing some of the new methodologies, teaching methodologies that are out there. And that starts at the teacher training level, whether it's with the CELTAs or with the TESOL certificates. Those programs need to be upgraded. And I haven't seen the teachers in the last couple of years coming out, but when I owned my own language school, the teachers that were coming out were pretty much cookie cutter type teachers. They were doing all the same activities, all the same thought patterns, and it wasn't good, guys. It wasn't good. It wasn't interesting. And I'd like to see more mobile learning, like Anesh is doing, more flipped learning methodologies being taught, more project-based learning methodologies being taught in the ESL program, because what they're doing now is 1990s stuff, and we need to get up to the 21st century. And yeah, 1890s. And there's a lot of great stuff happening in the US. They're doing a lot of great boot camps and training sessions for teachers, but it's not here in Canada, and I'm a little bit disturbed by that and worried about that for Canadian TESOL teachers. But there's a lot of great stuff happening down in the US, and a lot of workshops that are going on for teachers to help them with these new methodologies. So I'd like to see that being done more, and get away from the communicative approach, and let's introduce teachers and give them a variety of methodologies, because no one methodology is going to work. We need a variety, and you need to pull those out to find those receptors in the students. It could be a project-based learning week, it could be a mobile learning week, it could be a flipped class. You can do a lot of different methodologies, and I don't think that the TESOL programs are preparing teachers well enough for that.
I had a thought.
Okay.
So, how there's medical tourism, where people from Canada go to India and have surgery, and they recover in India and enjoy the experience and get a little sightseeing in. I thought of English tourism. So if you're studying, already is? Oh, yeah. If you're specializing in a certain culture, having the tour led by bilingual speakers, so that you could really maximize their English absorption on a tour here in Canada.
Was there something related to that, Judy, that you wanted to comment on?
Well,
Yeah.
I think this is part of what we're going to explore tomorrow. So
Yeah.
tomorrow morning is next steps.
Yep.
And this is the first time, I think, something in Toronto.
Yeah, and we tried to cover some, tech
different
and
areas.
small business and experiential learning. These are some of the big targets. So what's the direction? I don't really know. So it depends on feedback and what people ask for and what they need. So we're defining the direction of ESL with conversations like this.
Did you guys have any questions that you were thinking about possibly asking? Yes.
I have a question.
Go for it.
My question is that the entrepreneurial spirit is great, but one of the things that usually fails is being able to make money from it. And so I think along with all of the great ideas that you have, you also have to treat it as a business. And if you're going to make it move forward, you need to make a certain amount of money at each step of the way to make it all progress. Otherwise, it's not possible to make it go into the future. So how do you do that?
That was the first topic that came up for tomorrow morning, was financing it and grants and how to manage the money, and the cost was the number one topic tomorrow. So that's so timely.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if anyone had any one comment. Go ahead for it.
Well, I think by no choice of my own, being laid off and getting into the Toronto Business Development Center, pitching the idea and getting into it, I was fortunate to get funded by the government to some extent to meet Elizabeth and get that mentoring coaching to start my business. So I think there are still government initiatives out there like that.
Not like that one.
But
Not like that one, but there's some. But I'm going to do a little bit of a history lesson in that women have always typically been more successful than men in business, because women didn't used to get loans, business loans. And so I think there's something to be said for bootstrapping your business. And that means doing it as economically as possible while you're getting ready to make money. And a lot of people, everybody has an emotional relationship with money, and we're often willing to compromise our price very quickly. Oh, you don't want to pay that? Oh, I'll discount it. It's not worth it. If you know what you're worth and you know what the value is and the benefit to your client, then don't discount it. Figure out another way that you can work around that. Give them more value for the same price, that sort of thing. I have a workshop called the Understanding Money, and it reveals to yourself your emotional relationship with money. And so it's a very important question to make money. Some people also spend money very readily. They save some money to start a business, and they spend more readily than they need to because they have it. And I say to them, you have to have a couple months in the bank so that you're not panicked. Because when you're negotiating with somebody and you're panicked about money, they can smell it. They can smell that you're willing to compromise on the price of your service. So have the money there so that you're not constantly thinking, well, if I don't get them, I won't make the rent this month, that sort of thing. But yes, making a fair price, finding your market. It may not be the person, it won't be the person who feels they can't afford to purchase. We did a lot of work around that. What was a good market in the ESL area? So there's a lot of things that go into doing what you love, but then finding the right market and selling them at a fair and profitable price.
And I would say that education is a tough business to make money in. It's tough business. And I would suggest to teachers who are maybe, under 35, looking for a change, maybe thinking about starting up their own business, to keep your job and look at other aspects that you could slice off to do a niche area to work in, and see if you can build up a clientele. And if that niche area is what Anesh was doing on the spot, you could do it on Saturdays. You could start up a workshop. If you want to teach teachers about how to doing ed tech, you could do it on Saturdays or in the evenings and see if there's money there. Don't quit your job and try to grow, because it's a tough industry to make money in the education industry. So, and the other option that you should have is if you're in the under 35 age range, you need to think about having multiple sources of income. Okay, so one can be the workshops, one can be coaching, one could be teaching online. You need to have multiple sources of income. You can't rely on one income, especially for those younger generations where you're not going to be able to stay in a nice job for 30, nice teaching job for 30 years and get a pension at the end. That's not going to happen. So you need multiple jobs and multiple revenue streams that create your comfort zone. And hopefully one of them can take off from there. So that's what I would say.
I thought in the last, is there any questions that you guys had here? And are there any questions online or my questions? Yeah. Are you thinking of anything? Is there anything online?
No, just a comment.
Yeah.
Team looks great and very appreciative for all the knowledge.
Team looks great and we appreciate all of the knowledge. Thank you for that online comment.
Where did that come from?
From who?
Joan
That was from
Weber. Joan Weber.
Joan.
From my mom.
Oh,
No.
okay. I took you seriously. So I thought maybe for the last thing we can talk about the, because I want you to feel free to say the things that we want to attack tomorrow at the hackathon, the big questions that we can't actually get to now, but things that are on your mind and you think that are the most pressing issues that we need to think about.
For me, something that just came up recently is just the idea of collaboration. You know, I'm a small fish in this huge ocean of language schools who are dominating the industry. What's hurting from them from possibly collaborating in some facet? You might say the institutions and the Languages Canada and the upper boards, like, you can't work with that little guy. But how can we do more collaboration to support young niche markets that really are having an impact, a disruptive impact, and trying to change the status quo?
Content, updating content. So, and I think there's going to be different tables with different topics and different specialists at the tables. So you're going to have a rich conversation about the topic that's on the table. And one of those content, how do you update content to be as current as you can be?
And how you deliver content, I think, is another tool that we can discuss. And also, I want to talk about Scam-a-lot. Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Is that called? Like hashtag Scam-a-lot. Judy, do you want to explain that?
Not quickly.
Oh, we have no time. Oh, okay.
No.
1 minute, okay.
Yeah, the way English is being taught now is finished. It's already outed. It's already lost its credibility. Part of the problem is the teachers haven't been trained up to snuff, and students are finding English lessons elsewhere. Yeah, and they finally got wise to grammar and everything we discussed this morning. That isn't the way to teach English. So we're into a new conversation. What is the way? But that old party's finished. Exploit a student, scam a lot, it's done. So great, it's on the table. Let's just address that. What are we doing?
To that point, I'll go look at to Elizabeth after. I think the nature of the client and our customers has changed drastically, and we have to address that because and their expectations. We have students taking vacations from their current school to join our school. It's like, geez. So the nature of the client, what they want, what they're expecting is very different, and you have to give value to your customer.
I was going to add to that, find your peeps, find your people, because there's no point in knocking on doors that you know aren't friendly doors. There's tons of people who want to collaborate with you, and find them and keep them close.
That's fantastic. Well, with that, we'll wrap up. I'm so sorry. Go ahead, continue. Is there something you have to say? Oh. Okay, we will leave it at that. I'm sure that you may have questions that you are thinking about. The biggest challenges will be the ones that we will be talking tomorrow at 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. at our hackathon. Let's give our round of applause to our panel members. We will begin to set up for our third guest speaker, James Rice.